Well, welcome everyone to the first of our Meet the Students series. You may have caught some of our Meet the Supervisors sessions over the last year, but now we're turning our attention to meet some of our postgraduates. And I'm very pleased to welcome this time Frederique Green, who's just recently completed a thesis on the Amish. Welcome, Frederique. It's very nice to see you, as always.
Thank you.
So you just graduated this July. It was a lovely day, and there we were dressed in our medieval gowns.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about what your thesis was about, please?
Yes, my thesis was about looking at the exchange, the dialogical exchange between the American political legal system and the Amish Christian minority. And I did it studying across 4 states, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, and upstate New York. And I was looking at federal level, state level, and also local level. So all this study came together and made my PhD.
Brilliant. Okay. So the Amish, we'll come back to them. That's interesting, obviously, because mainly you might think of Woodbrooke and think of Quaker studies, but we do supervise in Amish studies. And so you were looking at as you say, the interaction between the Amish as a religious minority with very particular views and values and principles, and the kind of the legal system, as you say, local, federal, state level. So, and what was your conclusion? What was your finding?
My findings were, as I set about to understand what my predecessor and famous Professor Don Crable said about negotiation with everything, including negotiating with the state. Mm-hmm. And he wrote a book, was editor of a book called The Amish and the State in 1993. And I thought that was a bit dated in some ways. And also I discovered, I thought that was not exactly the case when it came to legal issues. And I had my preconceived idea coming from studying a bit of French law in my younger days, that you cannot negotiate with the law. Mm-hmm. However, through interviewing judges, lawmakers, and business people, Amish leaders, I discovered that there was an element of negotiation at local level, but certainly at state level, it was probably not the case, and certainly not at all at federal level. And that was the discussion was around this. Can we not negotiate with the law or with the state? And I came about with 3 models: the negotiation model, which was obviously Professor Crable's model, my model, which was the constitutionalism model, which was based on the 2 main articles, Constitution articles, amendments, First and 14th Amendments of the American Constitution, and that for me was this model. And the third one was the hybrid model, which of course includes both Professor Crable's model and my constitutionalism model.
So all 3 models are actually in operation, just at different levels or even different situations.
And states, because my main discovery when I was in America is to discover that the federal constitution is one thing, but then each state has their own constitution and their own system, and within the state you can also have different nuances. So that was the icing on the cake, to understand all the different things working together.
And also the Amish are organized differently, aren't they, in Pennsylvania, with a kind of conference of bishops coming to a single view, And then
Yes, and
say Ohio, that is much more
exactly. As Professor Crabel said, the first time I met him in 2011, and I was just finishing my undergraduate dissertation, as we call it in England, but not in America. He said to me, there is no such a thing as the Amish. You have so many tribes, around 40 tribes, different tribes, so you cannot say the Amish. So if in effect, you have so many different groups from very conservative to more progressive and all the rest in between that we cannot say the Amish. So some Amish will do this, some Amish will do that. In some states, they will do it in such a way, in the other state will not. So it's a very complex issue when you tackle the Amish.
Oh, yes, and different brands of Amish, and
Yeah.
and so, and then this is the United States of America. So if you go to Canada, maybe a whole other kind of situation.
Absolutely, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
great. So, as if people haven't realized already, you're from France, you're French.
Yes.
But you've been living in England for some time, and yet you then decide to do your doctoral research on the Amish in a wholly other country. Why the Amish, Frederique?
Well, this group, I discovered this group like many people around the world with the film Witness in 1985. And from then on, I had this desire to know more about them. And each time I could read a book about them, I would. And then what pushed me more is more than, it must be 28 years ago now, I met some Mennonites who were traveling to France at the time. I was still living in France. And they were so plain and very interesting to talk to. And from the discussion I had with these semi-traditional Mennonites who were able to travel, because the Amish do not travel by plane or anything. They can cross the pond by boat, but nothing else. But Mennonites, some of them can fly, and they were visiting where all the Anabaptist movement started in Switzerland, Germany, etc. And they were passing through France. So, excuse me, those people really triggered a very, very big, deep hunger to know more. But then I had to wait to arrive in England, do my undergraduate studies, and then I had to stop for different reasons. I couldn't carry on just after my bachelor degree.
Did you do anything on the Amish as part of your undergraduate work? You took
Yes, and this is when I met Professor Crabel. Before writing my last piece for my bachelor degree, I went for 6 weeks to Pennsylvania in the USA and met Professor Crabel, who was at the time director of the Young Center. And for those who don't know what this means, it's a very center where all the Amish studies were done for a long time. Now there are other places which are starting to develop in Ohio and elsewhere, but it's still the sort of a mecca where everything happens in terms of Amish research. So in 2011, I spent 6 weeks there with an Amish family, but also interviewing Professor Crabel and other people, and getting my toe into the water and see how it was going. Yes. And my piece were written about the Amish. So I had a solid piece to start off with.
Okay. So then you had this pause before you could start the PhD?
Yeah, but meanwhile, when I was pausing between my bachelor degree and starting my PhD, I continued my research as an independent researcher person. And in 2013, I was able to present a paper in Pennsylvania, in Elizabethtown Young Center, and so I carried on, and I was still hooked on this research, and came back home, carried on as an independent researcher until 2015, when the story of Fran Hendrik, who is one of the former students of Woodbrooke and paved the way to open Amish studies, she was studying the Amish, but unfortunately her health was very she had great difficulties with her health and had to stop a little bit. And then when she resumed and went to America to continue her interviewing and went to the Young Center, she read through what happened at the last Amish conference, which happened in 2013. And then she found my paper and was tickled by the fact that someone else was doing research on the Amish in England.
Yeah.
And it took a little while. She contacted me by email, and I thought, oh, who is this woman? I wasn't very confident at that point, and I asked key questions, and finally I thought, oh, that sounds okay. So we had a telephone conversation, and it was wonderful to see the richness of conversation we had and how she understood my quirkiness in wanting to study the Amish and research them. And I shared with her my dream of maybe one day being able to complete a PhD. And she said, oh, you have to talk to Ben. Ben was here, of course. And she also did something which was important for me. She said, the University of Birmingham is also giving, has funding for researchers, so that might help you. So after that, I had a discussion with Mark, my late husband, and with his blessing, I called Ben, and the rest is history.
Okay. Well, it was really wonderful because there was a time where you and Fran were both, you know, part of our student group, and so we had a very strong Amish studies section, even with, you know, just when we went on about Quakers, you could turn off a little bit, but yeah.
Yes.
So, you know, and your success and Fran's success has then brought in other inquiries about Amish studies and Mennonite religion, and so we're hoping that will carry on very, very much. So you've talked about going to America and interviewing people. So somewhere along the line, you made a choice, I suppose, that you wanted to talk to people rather than just work off books and text or the internet. And
well, the thing is, there was nothing done in that way before I did. I mean, in a big way, I'm saying.
yes.
And I thought, well, I can't find in books what I'm after, and I had to create my own research, and therefore I had to go and interview these people, key people in America. And that was quite demanding, and in terms of organization and meeting people, how you get to contact these people who are so busy, and I just have a few weeks together because I was still working at the time, and I had to organize myself in that way as well. So yeah, it was quite a big challenge.
Yes. So I suppose in some ways you have to go and talk to the Amish, because you can't just, you know, ring them up or, you know, speak on the internet, because they don't, you know, use that in a major way. And then also for the judges and people like that, I could imagine that if you just, you know, kind of done an email, you might not have got much back, but that request to come and talk, and the fact you were traveling across the Atlantic probably helped you, you know, get access to the kinds of people you were able to talk to.
Yes, I think I was extremely, knowing myself and how shy I can be, for this research, I became so bold, contacting people out of the blue. The first contact with the Supreme Court in Ohio, and from there snowballing contacts with other people, judges. And then when I was finally there with several interviews lined up, the snowballing effect, which is when someone is giving you the name of someone else and someone else and someone else, it's just wonderful, because it happened to me. And from a judge, I went to see another lawyer, and this lawyer knew an Amish bishop, and it was just a sort of fabric weaving itself together by meeting people.
But that's tricky, isn't it? Because if you've scheduled a lot, you know, I mean, you almost need to have the space for the, you know, when someone says, oh, you know, I'll just call so-and-so and see if they can talk to you. You need to be...
I remember vividly one day in Ohio where I started interviewing people at judges at 10, and the day finished at 10 o'clock. That was a very long day, because I started thinking I would interview 2 people, and I ended up interviewing, I think, 4 or 5.
Fantastic.
And that was just very exciting for me, exhausting, but exciting.
Yeah, and a really but an important methodological point there about having some space to allow for spontaneity and, you know, and this kind of snowballing effect. So excellent.
But that was something positive and interesting. But when you travel across the Atlantic, you have also to count with all the strikes of flight control, etc. And I missed some important appointments in 2018 due to that. And so I had to reschedule with people, and that was very, very stressful, because I wasn't sure that these people in America would be able to reschedule with me while I was there. So there are sort of accidents of research that are quite stressful. But it turned out to be okay.
I know you had a delayed flight, and I know you had hire car breaking down on you.
Oh yes, mobile phone not functioning, all sorts.
Yeah, I mean, it's trying to account for every eventuality is not easy. And I know from working with you how tightly packed your schedule was, because, as you say, once you're there, you want to make the most of the time, and it's expensive to you know, to be traveling around. And
that's right. And this is where the University of Birmingham was very good to me, because they gave me some awards, and especially in 2018, when I was traveling across the 4 states and staying 6 weeks altogether, a lot came from my own money. But the big award I had at that point was really helping me to extend my research and have it richer, thanks to this help.
Yeah, so there's this support fund that any student can apply to twice a year.
Yes, it is every year, and it's really good. I think they can apply twice a year.
Yes,
but I always applied in February, because this is when I was sort of preparing to.
Okay, and you combined those trips with the Amish Studies Conference at the Young Centre?
Yes, I did that too, and that was helpful, because I was sharing part of my research, and at the same time making more contacts with other academics, and getting some help, for example, with Karen Johnson Weiner, who lives in upstate New York. She was so welcoming and helping me so much when I was there, with her knowledge, hospitality, and taking me to a group that would never open to me if I would have not been with her. The Schwarzentruber, the Amish Schwarzentruber, as are the most conservative on the whole range of the Amish, and it was absolutely magic for me to be able to interact with these people. So I had blessings on my way.
Great. So a little bit like Quaker Studies, I think there's a kind of network of academics, and then, as you say, those people can open doors, and that's really, really wonderful.
And another one who helped me greatly was Steve Nolt, when I needed to have a contact in Indiana, because I knew nobody in Indiana. And I talked to him, and he said, oh, well, I know a commissioner, so-and-so, and just try to speak to him. And from this person, a big mushroom of contact came, and Indiana was a great success thanks to my contact via Steve Nault. So I'm very, very grateful for people who were researchers before me, pioneers in Amish studies, but who are and were generous with their knowledge and helping me, giving me a stepstone to go further. Stepping stones, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, you got to speak to some, you know, amazingly kind of significant people, like judges who'd made really important rulings on particular cases.
Yeah.
And were you able to get to speak to the Amish that you wanted to? Because I mean, there can be this mistrust of what they call the English, the kind of non-Amish.
Yes, I think when I went the very first time in 2011, I already was able to make contact with Amish people from a more progressive family where I was staying. They put me in contact with more traditional, older Amish people. And from then, I was able to have more access to families. And in my research, it was more a question of having leaders or business people, Amish business people, who would give me their opinion about how they felt that the American government was helping them or hindering them in doing some different things. And that was very helpful to mesh with my research and my questions I had with the judges.
Yeah, no, excellent. Good. So when you rang me, I mean, you could have, I suppose, tried to do a PhD through the Young Center or with someone like Steve Nault in Indiana,
Possibly,
or Ohio, or
possibly. But I think what was interesting for me was to have a base here in England was very, very important. And I think Fran Hendrik did the work for me. She found the place, right? So because she said when we first talked, she applied for in 32 universities before she found the University of Birmingham, and then from the Quaker Center accepting her to start her Amish research. So in effect, the way was paved for me, and I just had to call you, but make my case. And I sent you, I remember sending you my undergraduate dissertation, and maybe reading it made you aware of the fact there was something there that could be material for a PhD.
Yeah. No, it was very clear. It was very interesting. I mean, it has been very interesting project. So yeah. But how was it? I mean, you don't live close to Birmingham. So how was it to be part of a university, but be, I don't know, what is it, 150 miles away, 130 miles away?
It's one hour and a half for me. So I don't know how many miles, 1.5, 2 hours when there was works, but it was close enough, I think, to be manageable, and I tried. I think I probably didn't miss one student day in my whole 7 years, because I think that is very important when we get into these researches or studies, to be part of the group, part of even if I wasn't Quaker, and I'm not a Quaker, the group was important. The first time I arrived, I was absolutely scared to death, because they were all very intelligent, knowledgeable people exchanging in strange language for me, because they were so educated. And I thought, oof, I really had this imposter syndrome, and for a long time, because listening to papers presented by very knowledgeable Quakers was very informative but scary. However, I was persistent and carried on
Yes.
because I wanted to learn, and I grabbed everything I could. And and the spirit of this group was very good, supportive, helping. I was lucky enough to visit the Woodbrooke Center, Quaker Center, each time, which unfortunately I think is closing down this week. So that's a very sad part of the Quaker Center story. However, I think nothing is dead, and be continuing via Zoom or going to the Students' Day wherever they are, be it in London, in the North, in Birmingham. It's good to be part of these Students' Days. It's stimulating, motivating, and you can also share your doubts, your success, your everything.
So for people who don't know, we have 3 student days a year where all of the students within the Centre for Research in Quaker Studies come together. Some of them share their work formally in presentations, but we try and build around a social time as well. And even whilst we don't have the centre anymore, for example, the next student day in Birmingham next March will be kind of have a residential option where people can come and stay, and we'll have some evenings together and that kind of thing. So we're just trying to recreate what has been possible in the past. So, I mean, I'll just reflect a couple of things that now, of course, people would come along to a student day towards the end of your 7 years and be absolutely frightened because there you were presenting your work on the Amish in such clear and erudite terms, and so I mean, I think that's just wherever we go into some new setting, it's going to feel a little bit different. But I mean, I suppose the other difference was that a lot of those students, I mean, many of them are not Quaker, but they were largely doing Quaker studies.
Yes.
Where if you're going to the Young Centre, I mean, everyone's talking your kind of language, I suppose. So,
yes.
Yeah, what they're talking about. I mean, the other thing to mention about language is, of course, you're also working in English and not French. So, I mean, that must have been challenging at times, or maybe not.
That was challenging when my dear supervisor, Ben, said, "Oh, I can read your French accent in your English." And so I had to take, at the beginning, I was very susceptible and sensitive to criticism. I didn't take them as constructive criticism. So I had to learn and accept that, no, that's kidding. That's okay. I can work through that and get better. Also, one of the struggle I had with my supervisor here present is as I was doing these studies about the Amish, I had to battle for several months, I think almost 18 months before my supervisor understood that I was going to look at it from the American government point of view and not the Amish. So I had to articulate my ideas and be able to defend them until Ben said, Eureka, yes, I understand what you are on about. So all this to say that it's when we start, maybe not everybody is like me, but when we start, maybe our ideas are a bit like an embryo, and it has to develop and get better, and then by defending our subject, we can finally write properly about it.
Okay, and then you've got all that good practice through talking with me for the Viva.
Yes.
You're so used to being able to assert your point and communicate it and defend it. So that's
yes. Now, on the positive side of the supervisor and tutors, please, when you get into this job of having a master's or PhD, trust your supervisor, because, for example, Ben has led more than 100 students to success. there is a truth there. If Ben has led us all through success, he knows something about it. So the questions he asks, sometimes you think, oh, what?
Yes.
But you have to keep in mind, trust him. He knows what he's doing, and then we can really achieve when we have this sort of complicity between tutor and or supervisor and student. It works well because we can ask different questions, be challenged, and challenge as well the supervisor to understand better where we are going.
Yeah, and we're all on the same side. I mean, you know, that's a great thing. And then all the other students are on the same side, because there's, you know, it's not like only the top 3 will get their PhD. Everyone, we hope, will walk away with the degree they've registered for. And so that's, no, good. So it was 7 years for you. I mean, part-time PhDs 6 to 8, so you were right there. But you know, that requires, again, quite a lot of determination and keeping at it, and a subject that you're really passionate about. Were there moments where you thought, I've just fed up with this, or I've had enough? Or
no, I think you just said what I was about to say. Be passionate about our subject is what is the engine of getting us going until the end. My passion never stopped in me. I had some obstacles, and I think I hit the wall probably after having 2 bereavements, and I was losing a little bit of my stamina, and I hit the wall, and I was thinking, well, what am I doing here? But after this big obstacle was overcome, no, the passion one has in oneself is just to go on and on. And I think one of the good things, if someone has discipline, that helps. And also, I'm a great believer in creating rituals. And I think my ritual was every morning I was getting up early, getting ready, walking my dog when she was still alive, and coming back, preparing my cup of coffee, getting at my desk, and that was it. My rituals was that. And every morning I was at 9 o'clock at my desk and working part-time in the afternoons, etc. And I think that the routine for me was vital. I'm not a scatty person. I need to have my discipline, and through that and I am a persistent person. So through that, you can get to your goal, even if we are bashed by difficulties. And I had my fair part of difficulties. Also, we had the pandemic, and for 3 months, I was teaching my granddaughters who live in France through Skype. We didn't have Zoom in the family, so through Skype every day, 5 hours a day for 3 months. That put a stop, not a complete stop, but I was trying to write and do things in the evening, but I wasn't concentrating enough, and it was difficult. So I battled for 3 months while the pandemic was on, to keep up in my transcriptions of interviews and trying to write, etc.
Yes, sure. I mean, if I think of I always think of determination and persistence, and really in every way, both just pushing through all the things that you were facing personally, but also, as you say, setting up these interviews. You just were dogged in making sure you got to speak to the people you wanted to. It's fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're now Dr. Green. It's fantastic. Great celebration. Really pleased. So can we then expect a book of the thesis?
Yes, that was already on its way. By the end of August, I was discussing on Zoom with Steve Nolt, and I already put my first page, the dedication to my husband, and then my husband died. So that is just it's a bit on the back burner at the minute, but I think I will again push to honor his memory and do it, because he was so excited about that too. He was the greatest supporter I had all the way. So I want to carry on this for him.
Yes, fantastic. And he helped you, didn't he? When, I mean, he went on some of your field trips and...
he was, how many drafts did he read? How many discussions we had? If our kitchen table could speak, it would tell a lot of stories about our discussions on the Amish and why I was talking about this and that way instead of. And yes, he came with me and to the field trips, and he was so excited, as much as I am, so much so that at the end he knew as much as I did almost on the Amish.
Okay, so you've done the theorizing and the, and all the writing. Fantastic. Yeah. So I can understand, obviously. I mean, thank you so much for speaking to us today. Really, when when you're still coping with everything that's happened. I can understand the book's on a bit of hold. We will be having a weekend actually next year on getting your thesis published that Rhiannon Grant, my colleague, is going to be running. So you never know, that might be a nice time to come along and meet some of your former peers. And
why not? Why not?
So, and I mean, if it might even say Quaker Studies in the title, but we know that it's bigger than that. So
yes.
And obviously lots of potential for future research should you want to carry it on. And the whole of Canada awaits you. But
yes, but the question will be now again, where do I find my funding to do all these good things? And I don't have a clue where it would come from. So I have to think about that.
Yes, certainly. Sure. I mean, there may be some postdoctoral funding, who knows? But see.
I have no idea, and I'm not yet at this stage.
No, sure, absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to say to prospective students? You've offered a lot of helpful tips and things like rituals and
maybe it's very administrative. What I wanted to say to students is it's all about the admin from the University of Birmingham point of view. They are very structured. It's a monster. Their website can be so tricky to get through. So when you have a question, just Google it, and you will come with your answer, and it will lead you to where you have to be at the University of Birmingham website. And also, I think when we are in this research, all these forms are bothering us. We're not very happy. We have to do, what is this about the DNA form, development need analysis, and why do we need to do this annual progress in March? And I think looking back, it's really, really helpful. And one mega tip I would like to give to anyone who has not done it yet already is to keep a diary, recording every single thing you do every day. And second, to keep a list of all what you read with all your references, because when it comes to writing, it's jolly good to have it all ready. I know some of you are very clever and use softwares to keep up with that. I wasn't able to. I wasn't clever enough for that. I was clever enough to use the NVivo software for qualitative research treatment, but I didn't have time for the rest. So I confess mine was manually done, but it worked. Anyway, coming back to these forms, I think when you have a diary, it's easy to fill out your form for monthly supervision. You know what you're going to talk about with your supervisor without getting crazy, what I'm going to talk about. And then when you record every monthly supervision, it's like building a tower. From the diary, you build your monthly supervision form. Then if you keep them all, when the DNA time comes. You just have to look at them and be helped, and also for the March annual progress. So I think there is a reason for everything, and all this little tower of forms makes you see where you progress, and also where your needs are, because we have needs. I had needs of having a workshop on this en vivo 12 program, and some others would like Zotero, some others, and the University of Birmingham is full of resources, workshops, and we are paying for them. So just grab them and go and do them. And also they have a very, very strong service for mental well-being. And when we received all these emails, contact and have a workshop, do it. It's really interesting, and we can be helped by what we get from them. So everything is useful. Not only the Quaker Center and the supervisors, who are fantastic, excellent, Rhiannon as well. These two, Ben and Rhiannon, as the one I know the best. I think you can open up, and it's not only academic. It can come to the difficult times when you can also open up with more private issues, and they are there for you, and that's great. And it's really important to know that.
Okay, thank you very much, Frederique. Yeah, so I mean, all the students we supervise at Woodbrooke are full Birmingham students at all those facilities, all those workshops, the software, the training, the seminars, they're all available to everybody. And I mean, obviously not everyone lives close by, but there's quite a lot online as well. I remember you were doing the Shut Up and Write sessions.
Yes, that's also something. I think it continues to happen every Monday evening online with Discord app, Common Room. Chris Lord and Zoe and Mark Runkle used to go, and me. It's good. Some people will like it, some others won't, but it's just always good to try.
Creating the networks that help us, and not feeling alone in this. I think that's really important. You know, in over 7 years, that's a long time that someone could feel isolated or so good. Well, thank you so much for your time and all those insights and reflections, as well as 7 wonderful years of working with you, Frederique. And I know we're going to keep in touch, and you know, there'll be other conversations along the way. But thank you very much for today. It's been really great.
Thank you.